Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we have episode 169, and my goodness, there has been so much news over the last few days in the world of mainly boxing. I mean, Oleksandr Usyk is vacating his heavyweight titles. Canelo versus Billy got postponed. Tank got made champion in recess. He's no longer a champion. Rolly Romero, Teofimo Lopez looks like it's a done deal. But we're going to talk about all that. We have to start with the main man, Jaron Boots Ennis and Xander Zayas this weekend. What a fight. This was true big fight feels. It felt like it was Boots' coming out party. I don't think there's any denying anymore. He belongs on that pound for pound list. They entered him at number 9 today. I think that's a good spot. He's the man in the super welterweight division. He's a superstar. And I feel like we're just starting like the Boots era. I feel like, I don't want to get too excited, but I mean, even Crawford. There's a lot of talk about this afterwards. Like, could Boots fight Crawford? And I would love to see that. I don't think he beats Crawford, but it would be awesome if Crawford fought him. Crawford said he's not really interested and that it's going to be Boots' era and that he's going to be supporting him with that. And I like to hear that Crawford's going to stay retired, but I don't know. It would be kind of cool. But anyways, I mean, yeah, this really could be the future of American boxing in Boots Ennis. I thought it was such a phenomenal fight from both men. And I'm glad that Xander Zayas isn't getting hate or anything like that because he did not have to take this fight. He voluntarily defended his titles. He was 23 years old. Everyone told him it was too early, even Top Rank. They didn't want it, and he said, no, I want to do this because losses don't matter when you're trying to chase greatness, and I believe that. It's the undefeated record only means something if you're defending it while being this, fighting all these great fighters. If you lose when you step up in competition like this and try and take on a fight that will, make your legacy as a great fighter, then it's okay to lose. He didn't have to win this fight, and also just the way he handled the fight afterwards, like complete class, so humble, gave Boots all the respect in the world, made zero excuses. Even Chris Mannix tried to ask him, hey, you think you're going to move up to 160 after this, as that was talk before the fight? And he said, I don't want to make any decisions tonight. I don't want to make any excuses. He beat me. I'm not going to say, oh, the weight's too hard. I'm going to go up to 160. Truth is, I had a great cramp and I felt great tonight. So he was just, I think it was a little bit too early for him, and that's okay. Even though he's a unified champion, he'd never fought somebody on Boots' level before. I mean, Xander's tough, right? And just that first shot was kind of like a reality check where he got hit, and when he gets knocked down in the first round, it was I jumped up. I was like, no way. And I think Xander kind of felt that. He was like, ah, shit, like this is a real fight we're in. Like, I was not expecting that. And then for the next few rounds, it's very competitive. Third round is round of the year. Both guys just throwing ridiculous shots the whole fight. I mean, they were just taking massive shots, no steps backwards, absolute war. Like, this is a fight of the year contender. And he had Boots hurt. Like, he hits Boots with a shot and his head leans up. And as much as I want to praise Boots and how amazing he looked on Saturday night, the truth is he does get hit a little bit too much. And a lot of the talking point was, okay, yeah, he got Xander out of there. That knockdown on the fifth round was beautiful. And from that point on, I was like, yeah, he's just too hurt. But he held on really tight. But the question about Boots is, gets hit too much. What happens when he's in there with Virgil or Fundora and they hit him that big? Because Xander is not a power puncher. He can hit, but he's not this thunderous power that even Boots has. Virgil and Sebastian Fundora are power punchers. They have cannons in their fists. And if they hit Boots with a shot like that, what happens? He ate him really well. He's a tough guy. He's beating the glass chin allegations. Obviously they made him trim his beard for this fight, which say what you will, but they did trim it a little bit. It still looked decently thick. That's Boots' whole thing. And he's gotten some criticism saying, oh, he's a thick beard so that he doesn't have to feel the shots. But I mean, he felt those, but he didn't go down. But yeah, I mean, he looked so good. It was so entertaining, and it's one thing to be a high level fighter. It's another thing to put on a badass fight every time you're in the ring, and that's what Boots and Xander did. Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought that the stoppage was very fair. This was the third time that Xander went down, and his corner or doctor, whoever made the decision, they were right to do so. I was surprised part of me thought Xander may not come out for the fifth round. I don't think that Xander's a quitter at all. I thought that he fought smart, and man, it was such an exciting fight. The atmosphere was crazy. I think they said it was sold out. I'm not sure if that's true. I think they sold out what they had on sale. I think the upper divisions were still kind of tapered off, but regardless, 10,000 plus were in the arena. The atmosphere is crazy. Philly versus Puerto Rico. And yeah, I'm just really happy with this entire event. The build up, these two guys putting everything on the line, and then the fight itself delivering. It was just perfect. It was really, really perfect. And I can't wait to see who Boots fights next. We can talk about it. Um, Came out today, Mike Coppinger saying that Boots and Fedora are in talks to fight later this year. And I think they're in talks with everyone. I would love to see Boots and Fedora. That is a magnificent fight. Obviously, Ortiz is the one that we need to see, and I think we will eventually get there, but Virgil likely to have a warm-up fight. He will have been out of the ring for close to a year by the time he gets back in. So wouldn't expect him to go right in with Boots. I think that Fedora, he's been saying he wants unifications. I hope it's not another lame title defense. So I would love if he fought Fedora. The one that I thought makes most sense is Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly is set to defend his title against Keeman Jarko on July 25th. Should he win that, and even if Jarko wins it, they should unify with Boots at the end of the year. It'll be an in-house matchroom fight. You can do it in the UK, maybe grow Boots' global star power, but I think doing it in Philly makes a lot of sense now that he is a true superstar. You can probably sell out that Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia. So yeah, my pick is for both what I would like to see and what I think is most realistic is Boots versus Josh Kelly. Another option is Israel Madrimov. If they can't get a unification X, that's a very solid title defense. Another matchroom fighter. As for Xander, apparently there is a rematch clause. I don't think that Xander will take the rematch clause, and I don't think that he should. After a fight like that, I would have said, nah, you got to take some time out of the ring. You're probably not going to beat Boots in the rematch. Apparently he is considering it, but he's also considering a move to 160, which, as we said, that was kind of the talk all fight week, is that he's probably going to go up to 160 next. He's a big guy. I don't think that he needs to be in a rush to get up to 160. I think that 154 is such a good division, and he definitely looks good at the weight. He was a lot bigger than Boots on the night. But if he does go up to 160, I won't complain. I think he can get up to a title shot pretty quickly at middleweight. There's a lot of great fighters at middleweight, but not a lot of great guys who are actually fighting for those belts. So I think that he could fit in there. But yeah, it was just a great, great fight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The whole card was honestly awesome. Ben Whittaker, just a showcase knockout, stops Richard Popeye Rivera in 2 rounds. I don't know what you can do with him with these kind of fights. It's 4 knockouts in a row, all of them very early. I think he's fought 6 rounds in his last 4 fights. So he definitely needs to be stepped up, and that is the plan. He's going to headline in October in Birmingham against a big-name UK opponent. Craig Richards, I just saw on Twitter that he is apparently unhappy with how he's not been getting any fights recently. He's not been getting active. He's the one that has long been said that he could fight Ben Whittaker. I think Whittaker definitely beats him, but still a fight that Whittaker would be a strong favorite in. As for one that I would like to see, Willie Hutchinson is an absolute banger of a fight. Anthony Yard coming off loss to Benavidez, that could be pretty fun. There is definitely a stronger risk in those Yard and Hutchinson fights than something like Craig Richards, but I would like to see it. Another option that they said has been talked about at Matchroom is Connor Wallace. I don't know if he still has a relationship with Matchroom, but he is, I think, the number 2 in the IBF, so he's closing in on getting that light heavyweight title shot whenever it does happen, and I think Ben Whittaker's number 3. So the winner of that, he'll be an interim title fight, could be an eliminator, and there's a chance that by the time that fight does happen, whatever Bivol does with these belts, it could become for the full title. So we'll see, but yeah, I think he's got a lot of good options. But yeah, I was really impressed with him, and I'm glad they got to bring him over to America and have a showcase just performance like that. Emiliano Vargas, he was in the co-main event. He beat up Bryce Mills very good. I thought Mills came in to fight, and I'll say this, the stoppage was poor. I thought the stoppage in Ben Whittaker's fight wasn't great either, but he was still on wobbly feet, so I don't think it was too bad. It was early maybe, but I think I could see why. The Bryce Mills stoppage was bad, even if Bryce Mills was also out on his feet. The ref got inside in the middle of an exchange where Mills was literally throwing back, so it just felt kind of weird where he literally had to pull Mills back and say, no, you lost, as he's literally trying to fight. It was just weird, but yeah, Emiliano, Bryce Mills wanted this fight, and Emiliano kind of just showed him, like, you won it, all right, here it is, and put belt to ass. So he's a very impressive prospect. I know he gets some hate and some flack for being a nepo baby, but he's really talented. They're talking about, he's going to get a title shot here and there. I don't think there's any need to throw him into a title shot. I think end of next year, it's very possible if he keeps on stepping up and staying active like this. A name that's been mentioned is George Kambosos. And, Kambosos is definitely at the end of his run. I think Emiliano Vargas beats George Kambosos today. So, yeah, run that one. Make it his first headline event. That'd be awesome. I'm down for it. I think that's a good fight. Jahai Tucker, he's one of the stars of the undercard, beating Yuri Cedeno. This came in as kind of a 50-50. Cedeno was another top-ranked fighter. He was undefeated, big knockout percentage. And the first 2 rounds are very competitive, but, Tucker's just kind of getting the better of him in every round. And then the back half of the fight, he definitely, started having a good bit more success throughout those later rounds. I was really impressed with him. He's a guy who's always had a lot of potential. Was question, all right, is he going to be able to really, put it to the best use? With majority decision, I thought it should have been unanimous. I don't know how 95-95 happened, but the other scorecards were pretty fair. Again, he's one of these up-and-coming American fighters that can get a big shot at 160. They just need to actually take that leap. And he's been stepping in competition. Look, Xander Zayas is coming up to 160 potentially. That's an in-house top-ranked fight that I think would do great numbers and would be super exciting. The build-up would be great, and I think the fight would be awesome. Tucker doesn't have a lot of knockouts, but he's entertaining to watch. Another option for Jahai Tucker, Vito Milnicki, who's honestly kind of have a similar career trajectory. He just signed with Matchroom, which I think is a great move for him. And it'd be another Matchroom versus top-ranked fight. But again, two American middleweights, prospects turned into contenders who are looking to become top 10 in the division, get themselves a title shot. Someone's got to fight each other at some point. The prelims were pretty entertaining too. Juanma Lopez, I've been saying I think he's really good, but I want to see him get a knockout, something like that. He gets a first-round knockout. Very beautiful, very well done. So again, on the big stage, biggest stage of his career, that's how we like to see it. And then Dennis Thompson and Quincy Williams both had very wide decision wins in their fights. It was a great card in Brooklyn. Again, just big-time boxing in New York. It doesn't get better than that. All right, let's talk about some other fights that we had this weekend. We talked enough about Boots and Xander. UFC were in Baku, Azerbaijan for the second year in a row. And I thought it was overall a decent card. 9 finishes in the 13-fight card. Rafael Fiziev, he knocks out Manuel Torres in round 2. I thought Torres took round 1. And Fiziev out of nowhere just gets the finish on him in round 2. It was a very good round. And yeah, I mean, Fiziev he's some man, dude. Like, he's wild. Now, I wasn't sure if he was going to win this fight. I kind of picked Torres. I thought it was going to be close. But yeah, I mean, you knew somebody was going to get flatlined in that fight. And yeah, so he's calling for a BMF title shot against Charles Oliveira. I do think he is a BMF in nature, but I don't think he's going to get that fight, and I don't think he wins that fight. So another up the rankings lightweight fight for him. He got to headline here off a loss, and he looked good doing it. So props to him. The other fights on the card, Shara Bullet, he had a decision win over Michel Pereira. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't his best performance. He totally lost the first round, did not look good at all. But then, he was able to bring it back in and do really well in the second and third round. I really want to see him fight an actual top 15 middleweight. And I don't know if he's media and meta rankings. It's all confusing now. But a legit guy, like, I don't know. I feel like he's just been kind of treading waters. Besides the MVP fight, which I know that he lost, he hasn't really fought anyone that's overly impressive to me yet, as a top fighter, which he seems to be. A huge upset in the fight before that. Nazim Sadikov gets finished in round 1 by Mateus Camilo. Definitely an early stoppage. Very controversial. He gets knocked down big. I get it. But, yeah, that just really wasn't a good look, especially in his hometown. That was a rough one. But what can you do? Alsu Almavayev submitting Charles Johnson in round 3. Thought this one was going to be a little more competitive. Alsu totally dominated him and caps it off with a very nice submission in the third round. So good for him. Kazakhstan fighter in Azerbaijan. So, definitely a good amount of fans there. Ikram Alaskarov beating Bruno Ferreira. Was not expecting that fight to go the distance. But, Alaskarov won 30-27 on all 3 cards. Good for him. It's 2 losses in a row now for Bruno. But what are you going to do? Like I said, Abus Magomedov submitting Mikhail Oleksandr very quickly in the first round of their fight. So that was another good performance. A lot of standout stoppages on this card. Farman Hasanov, a little bit boring, but a very dominant win in his UFC debut. Abdul Rahman Yakayev had a scary knockout of Julius Walker. And it was 8 seconds in. 8 seconds into the fight. They said that was, I think that may have been the quickest knockout in UFC light heavyweight history. It's either that or the second quickest. It's 7th or 8th on the list of fastest finishes ever. So that was insane. That was one of the biggest moments of the event. Nursultan Ruziboev looked phenomenal, submitting Andrei Pelayev in the first round. Khan Ofli had a first-round submission. Daniil Donchenko, I've been becoming a very big fan of, had a very, very good second-round finish. Gian Matsumoto upsetting Begsat Almakhan to win that one by unanimous decision. That was pretty cool. And then Tahir Abdullayev started the card with a third-round TKO. So very adventurous card in Azerbaijan. Next UFC card, we don't have one this weekend, but then it's the return of the Mac. Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway 2. International fight week on July 11th. Cannot wait for that. We had Zuffa Boxing 8. This was the big rematch between Jose Valenzuela and Edwin De Los Santos. And look, their first fight lasted a total of 3 rounds. Both men were downed in it. This one only lasted 2. It was all Jose Valenzuela. He hurts him at the end of the first round. It's like, all right, here we go. And then a very good knockout in round number 2. Had him out. And I will say this, he totally punched him when he was down, and the ref didn't say anything, neither did the commentary. It just felt kind of weird, that one. But, it is what it is. Valenzuela, really good performance by him. I thought he was going to win it. I was surprised he was an underdog. I know that he lost the first fight, but Edwin has just not been active, and that really gets to you. And Valenzuela's been on an okay run, on Zuffa Boxing. So, Max Kellerman trying to say, besides Shakur, I think you're the hottest thing in the lightweight division. I don't know what he's talking about. You guys like Abdullah Mason right there. And not to mention Raymond Murataya, Lamont Roach, William Zepeda, plenty of guys. I've got a lot more momentum than Jose Valenzuela, but he's got some. Mike Coppinger said that they're looking to do Mark McSally versus Andres Cortez in the late summer or early fall, and that Valenzuela would likely fight the winner of that for the Zuffa Boxing Championship at 135 pounds. That sounds like a good plan to me. Cortez and McSally will remain in co-main event on their April card. That's a good fight. I think Valenzuela would be a favorite against either one of those to become a champion, but we'll have to see how it goes. Co-main event on this card was a very dominant win for Omar Trinidad against Jerwin Encas, a former world title challenger. Definitely the best performance I've seen Trinidad produce. He was competitive in the first year, but then he really took the fight away in the back half, so that was well done at featherweight. And whenever they do get a featherweight title shot going, I think he should be in part of it. He calls out Angelo Leo, saying that this Ryan Garcia-Conor Benn fight, which looks like it could now be on September 12th, he wants to fight Leo on that for his title. And if they are going to put Zuffa fighters on that card, even though I think it's a ring one, why not do Trinidad versus Leo? I'm very much cool with that. We also had Kane Sandoval upset Brandon Lee, and I know he may have been the favorite, but that was an upset. Brandon Lee undefeated. One of those former prospect of the year, but could just never really get his career started and getting going for whatever reason. And yeah, I think that the activity was a big part of this, and Kane Sandoval kind of just thugged him out in the back half of the fight. I'll say this. Upon first watch, kind of thought it was a draw. I'm not at all mad at Sandoval winning. I thought that he deserved to win more than Lee did, but I don't think that it was very. I think the rounds were kind of close in the first half, but I thought that Lee won like was up 4-1 at the halfway mark, and so I saw the commentary and some of the other people saying that Sandoval was winning the fight so wide. I did not see that, and when one of the scorecards read out as a draw, I thought that made sense. But yeah, good performance by Kane Sandoval. Andres Turan finishes Floyd Diaz, takes the first loss of his career. Diaz was up 5-0 on every single scorecard going into that 6th round, and then he gets hurt, and he's definitely wobbled, and maybe he was on his way to getting finished, but a horrible stoppage by Thomas Taylor. Steps in way too early, and early stoppages are one thing, but when Turan has been losing the whole fight, Floyd Diaz is undefeated, and you step in like that and potentially ruin the trajectory of his career, like that was just, I thought that was way too early. Tony Hirsch Jr., he finishes Jabriel Benito in the 3rd round with a brilliant knockout that, Hirsch was definitely winning the fight, and then I was going to say, I'm like, Benito's taking a lot of shots here, and then out of nowhere, he just goes down completely unconscious. That's 2 fights in a row that Tony Hirsch has won on Zuffa Boxing, and both of them got him bonuses, so good on him. Damoni Kato Kane, very dominant win over Vernon Brown. Brady Ochoa and Adrian Serrano, I thought they were going to another draw. Serrano gets the win on the scorecards, which is cool with me. And then Jakongir Zokarov, he has 2 back-to-back finishes to start his career. Solid night at the Cosmopolitan with Zuffa Boxing, finally out of the Apex, and even though the Cosmopolitan's small, the product felt so much better and more alive outside of the Apex. The Apex just kind of sucks, and it sucks the energy right out of the fights, but there definitely you felt the energy in that arena. PFL was in San Diego. All fights but 2 on this card had a finish. Main event, AJ McKee beats Salmat Isbalayev by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 cards. I thought Isbalayev was competitive in the first round. I gave it to him, and he was even competitive in the second. But, again, it's just that experience factor, and McKee is a top-level fighter. I don't know why the PFL doesn't yet have a featherweight champion or a featherweight title fight going, but AJ McKee should be involved in that whenever they start, actually doing title fights again. I know they're about to. Liz Carmouche had a 2nd-round submission over Viviane Araújo. I thought she dropped the first round, but, looked good in the second one and gets the job done. I would love to see her fight Dakota Ditcheva again for the title. Alexander Shabley, he beats Alfie Davis. Alfie Davis got really saved by the bell in the end of that 2nd round. I thought he was done, and he gets out of it. But yeah, good one for Shabley. Rob Wilkinson, after getting pretty much BTA'd in round 1, he gets a finish in round 2. So an upset win there. Kasan Magomed Sharipov, a very good submission in the first. Jenna Bishop, 1st-round submission. Sarvarjan Kamidov, 2nd-round submission. Against Justin Wetzel. It was a final in the tournament last year. And then Shannon Clark, 3rd round TKO. Kobe Fair, first round submission. So it was a good card in San Diego. And we also had BKFC. They were in Hammond, Indiana. Again, a lot of great fights on that one. Grigoris Cisneros, he made a fan out of me, dude. Totally ran through Cameron Van Camp as the underdog. Venezuelan, like Viper, I think is what they called him. 3 knockdowns, just like literally was so venomous and just would not lay off him and just threw like probably 100 punches in a minute and a half. He was very impressive, very exciting to watch. So looking forward to see what he does in the welterweight division at BKFC. All right, let's talk about some news because we've still got so much to talk about. And let's start with the man himself, the pound for pound number 1, the heavyweight champion of the world, Oleksandr Usyk. Has vacated his heavyweight championships before his final fight. So it sounds like he's going to fight one more time. And he's not retiring. He's just vacating his titles because he doesn't want to hold up the division. He's not going to fight these contenders. So it's like, why am I going to sit on my belt? So Aga Caballel has already been upgraded to the full WBC heavyweight champion. Hopefully he gets to headline a big fight in the summer, or sorry, not the summer, but the fall in Germany. I know that he was supposed to fight in May, and he purposely did not fight in hopes of getting the Usyk fight, and I do feel for him there. But he's world champion now, so gets to have his first world title fight, entering as the champion. Murat Gassiev, he was already the WBA regular champion. Now that there is no super champion, he is the full champion. So he's defending against Tony Yoka on July 11th. So that fight has a lot more stakes on it now. And then IBF it's vacant as of right now. Frank Sanchez will fight somebody. Bakudir Jalalov looks like he's the next available contender. So that could be your vacant IBF heavyweight championship. And I would be cool with it. But let's talk about what we think Usyk is going to be doing. Eddie Hearn says that he believes Oleksandr Usyk is fighting Deontay Wilder. Now, we heard today from Usyk's manager, supervisor, that yes, they are talking about doing Deontay Wilder. They are also talking about fighting Jon Jones, as they want to have a big fight in America. Usyk's never gotten to have that marquee fighting main event in America, and I guess he wants to close his career doing that. I'd be okay with the Wilder fight. He's coming off a good win against Chisora. And again, it's not for a title, so it's not totally blasphemous. Usyk definitely will get him out of there, but if it's one more fight and that's what you want to do, I'm fine with that. But the fight with Jon Jones is also kind of interesting to me. As we saw with Rico and as we saw with Francis Ngannou, crossover stars are capable of doing very good in these kind of fights. And Jon Jones, while he's not, he's up there, he was pretty much undefeated in the UFC. You can call him the GOAT of the UFC. And he's not necessarily just a striker. A lot of his best work comes from wrestling, but he can definitely punch. And that would really be literally the GOAT versus the GOAT at the heavyweight division. Not just the heavyweight, but it's kind of the same ordeal with Rico. He was the man in kickboxing, but Jon Jones was the man in UFC. So I kind of love that, and I think I maybe prefer Wilder. But if they did Jon's first final fight, I'm not going to complain. But another piece of breaking news we had on Saturday was that Canelo Alvarez Jon-Mbilli has been postponed to late October. No reason was given, which I find very strange. Now, there's a few reasons. Could be an injury, but usually they'll just say that. There's a situation going on in the Middle East, and there was some doubt about if fights would happen in Saudi Arabia, and they didn't happen until later in the year. And AJ vs. Prenga is the first one that's scheduled. That wasn't delayed at all. I know it's in a different city than Riyadh. It's in Jeddah, but I still don't think that that's the reason. And I think we all figured it out. It looks like they want to do Conor Benn versus Ryan Garcia on that September 12th date. Ryan Garcia said a while ago that's the date that they've been talking about it doing in Las Vegas. And it felt very weird because these would both be Ring Magazine shows. And even if they're both huge boxing pay-per-views, and you wouldn't want to put them on the same date. So I understand why one of them is moving, but Canelo-Mbilli's been announced for that date for over a month. That is Canelo's date. He always fights on Mexican Independence Day weekend. Just feels really weird to push Ryan Garcia out of that, push Canelo out of that spot when his fight's already been announced, and have him do it in October instead. And look, maybe it's because they want to give Ryan Garcia that moment in Las Vegas. They want to promote a big fight with Conor Benn, and Canelo versus Mbilli, since it's not taking place in Vegas, it's taking place in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't really matter when it is, but just found it really weird, odd that they did that, and we'll see what the actual date is. We still don't have a specific date, which I find weird, and the reasoning, there was no actual reason, which I find odd, but Ben versus Garcia is supposed to get announced in the next week, should it get done. So we shall see. Robert Garcia also said that Bam Rodriguez versus Christian Medina could end up on that card now that it has been delayed to the end of October. We know that they're planning for that fight to take place probably around that time, and it was going to be a Bam headline. But if it's on that card as part of the Mexico versus the world, I won't complain, dude. Canelo and Bam on the same card plus one of their title fights is going to be amazing. So let's see it. Like we said, Tank Davis, he's been made champion and recessed by the WBA, and that's because of all the legal issues going on, and they don't think that he's actually going to be able to defend the title for a while. Now, this is a decision I thought they should have made a year ago, but they make it now, which is still okay. I just find it weird because Tank and Schofield were finally in negotiations. Like, it seemed like Tank was coming back to the ring, and now they do this. So just really odd to me, but anyways, I still think it's the right decision. So Floyd Schofield-Lucas Bahdi has been ordered for that vacant title, and apparently it's already in talks for August 21st. They're planning on Amanda Serrano headline event on ESPN on that date. So first of all, she's staying very active. That'll be her third fight in 2026. And yeah, so if that ends up on the card, that'd be awesome. They haven't put any men's fights on the main card of these MVPW events, but this should absolutely be on the main card, and I think it will be. So I thought this would totally be on a Golden Boy card, but if it's on an MVP one, that's a great get for them. Lucas Bahdi's a chance to become their first male world champion, so we'll see if they can get it done, although I don't think that he beats Lucas Bahdi. Rolly versus Teofimo, we heard some talks about this one. Could it be happening? Bob Arum says that it can't happen because he's still involved with Teo, but we know that's not true. But yeah, they say that my commentator said not. It's been agreed. It's a done deal for August 22nd in Las Vegas. Keith Connolly, Teofimo Lopez, they've all pretty much confirmed it. I think this is a great fight. I think that Rolly hasn't fought in a while, but I'm glad he's not doing a warm-up fight, and I think Teofimo is a great entry point to him in the division. Getting an immediate title shot is really good for him. And it's a good competitive fight. Like, I could really see either guy winning this, so I love it. Apparently, Teo did his deal directly with DAZN, which I found very interesting because told it's probably going to be a PC pay-per-view. Are they done with Prime Video? Are they almost done with them? I'm very confused because when Rolly was supposed to have this warm-up fight in August, on like August 8th, it was supposedly on DAZN, and now this fight's going to be on DAZN. So I think PBC may also be coming into DAZN. I don't know if they're the end of their Prime Video deal or it's not exclusive anymore. I'm so confused, but I don't know if there's a PBC card, a Top Rank card, a Ring Magazine card, whatever. Looks like it'll be on DAZN, so excited to see that. UFC White House did 34 million global viewers. Yeah, I mean, fantastic numbers. This is obviously heavily mogs the Ronda Rousey numbers. The MVP was kind of celebrating having the same amount. They did twice that. That was just in the U.S. on Paramount Plus. So definitely a very good win for them and great numbers. It's not the Super Bowl numbers, the World Cup numbers that Dana White said it would do, but it did great. It beat Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, didn't come close to Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, and also didn't beat Canelo Crawford, which is definitely a little bit surprising. I thought this would have probably beaten that, but I mean, that was just a very well promoted event. It was on Netflix and it was a huge deal. So I think it was a huge success. Manny Pacquiao is apparently looking at other options to fight later this year after the Mayweather fight was postponed. I'm a little bit surprised at that. I thought Pacquiao would not would just kind of wait until Mayweather, if it even happens at all. But I think he actually wants to stay active and he wants to become world champion again. So, dude, he looked so good against Mario Barrios at his age. If he comes back and fights again later this year, especially if it's against like a champion, dude, I would love that. Like, Liam Parr was right there. Would love to see that. Fluffy versus RoboCop has been officially announced for UFC Sacramento on August 22nd. So it's going to be going head-to-head with Rolly versus Teo, but that's a really good fight on middleweight. I love it. I know some people are saying, that shouldn't be main event, but that's a war. It's a guaranteed war, and they're both like top 10, I think. It's great. We talked about Virgil, and it looks like he is finalizing a deal to return with Golden Boy. So all looks good there, and one of those fights is planned to be Boots Ennis. So I think he's going to have a comeback fight. Then I'll fight Boots. The comeback fight that I would like, he is WBC interim champion. Fandora, his mandatory is both, Virgil, but it is also the number one contender who won an eliminator, and that is Ermal Hadjibriaj. And I probably butchered that. But I don't really want to see Fandora fight him. I want to see Fandora fight Boots potentially, if we can get that happening. So I think it's a good, tough fight in that it's a number one contender. He's top 10 in the Ring Magazine, but I think it's very winnable for Virgil should he fight Hadjibriaj. So that's just my own suggestion. It's been announced, and we have a press conference today to confirm it officially, that Lester Martinez will be fighting Luka Plantic on August 29th in LA. So this is going to be the first of Pro Box's kind of like paid tier, and they're going to do big events only from this point out. And Lester Martinez is their number one fighter. Luka Plantic is a very good fight for him. That's a tough one, and it'll be a defense of his WBC interim championship. So yeah, I mean, I I really like that fight. I think it's a good step up. And co-main event is going to be Najee Lopez versus Juan Carrillo, so undefeated versus undefeated there as well. I mean, that's a good fight at light heavyweight. I'm excited for this August 29th card. UFC 330 announced some additions to it. Let's talk about him. Jeff Neal versus Chidi Njokuani. So looks like Jeff Neal maybe they may be trying to get him as a gatekeeper once more. Vicente Luque versus Tresean Gore. Jeremiah Wells versus Mixtebek Oralbai fighting again. Always exciting. Although I'd like to see him fight some ranked opposition. And then Mansour Abdul Malik fighting Dustin Stoltzfus. So some okay card fights, but this has got to be the prelims, right? Like, there's no way this is the main card. If this is the main card, it is a horribly lopsided card. Like, great main event, good co-main event with a title fight, even if it's the weakest division in the sport. But I mean, that undercard is some good fights, but it's just not, top tier, pay-per-view worthy. So I think that we will get bigger fights announced. Speaking of UFC 330, Ian Gary and his Matchroom are set to have a press conference tomorrow to officially announce their talent agency signing of him. But also at that press conference, we will hear the announcement of Katie Taylor, Flora Pilley, the undercard, which I'm really curious to see. I think it's going to be Patty Donovan versus Tyrone McKenna. I think Peter McGrail or Joe McGrail, one of them's fighting on this card against like a good Irish fighter. And then Dave Allen versus Thomas Cardy's also been talked about. So looking to see who's on that bill. MF Pro, they signed Zuffa Barrett. That's a really good get for him. I think he was with Matchroom for a while. But look, we heard that Zuffa Barrett could be fighting Gavin Gwynn in September. That feels very much like it could be a MF Pro main event. And it's a good, well-matched fight. And I think Zuffa Barrett, it's a good signing for MF Pro. They don't have a ton of big headline fighters, and I don't think that Zuffa Barrett is this incredible fighter or anything, but he can probably sell a decent amount of tickets in the UK. BKFC, they announced Joe Lazon, a former UFC fighter and, mostly a wrestler, so not really sure what the whole BKFC aspect is going to do. Like, how's his striking going to be? But it's a multi-fight deal, and he's going to be making his debut at Fenway Park on August 29th, so that should be pretty fun. And then last bit of news. I said last episode that Clarissa Shields' case it's in Atlanta. I bought my tickets. Since then, we've learned that the undercard, not the main DAZN card, but the prelims are going to be on Zeus Network, and it's going to be mostly celebrity boxing. Like, I saw Ray J's fighting. Some other, I don't know if they're rappers or what they are, but some other celebrities are fighting on the card. And while I'm sure that could be entertaining, I'm a big fan of Misfits. I'm a little bit regretting buying tickets for it because I'm like, oh, I was hoping that we would get to see, even on these prelims, fighters like, Troy Isley, maybe. Like you see some of Salita's stable, Jaquan McElroy, some of those prospects. They've Price Taylor, like not everyone can be on the main card, but, put some of your really good prospects you've got on the prelims. And, so hopefully that main card is decent, and I'm hopeful that these prelims are pretty exciting too. But look, that's all I've got for today. Thank y'all so much for listening. Have a great week. We've got a quieter weekend in terms of there's not that many events, but you've still got Abdullah Mason versus Albert Bell, which is a really, really good card. The start of DAZN x TNT, and you got BKFC Liberty Brawl on Friday night, which is a pretty big deal. So looking forward to everything. Thank y'all for listening, and peace out.